Hi everybody, thanks for joining me. We're going to take a look at your updated forecast on our storm that's coming through on Saturday. And sorry this video is a little bit late, but I wanted to do a real deep dive. Then I had some sound issues in terms of what the forecast is going to look like. And unfortunately, I think what I've determined is that because of the setup, I don't think the models are going to give us a really good idea of what's going to happen until basically tomorrow night. And I'm going to explain why, and explain. So realistically, all we can do as responsible meteorologists at this point is explain to you what the possible solutions are. I think we have a pretty good idea of what the range of possible solutions are, and then try to give you our best estimate of it. But recognizing that until tomorrow night, this really won't be locked in. And I know that sounds strange, but I'm going to show you why, because it is just kind of the most honest answer I can give you at the moment. So this is the first part of the story as to why the models are still moving all over the place. So if you'll notice on this map, we do have the pieces that are going to become our storm in place, but you'll notice here we just have a little bit of convection off the east coast of Florida. This is going to kind of hang around. It's just waiting. We're going to show you what this is and what it's waiting for in terms of actually kicking, off a storm. Then we've got this area of precipitation, and then some clouds off to the west of it. This is our western, this is our upper level of support for the system, as well as this piece here over Texas. They're going to all kind of come together. Here's the upper level support, and here's the temperature zone. And let me show you that on the next map here. Whoops, let's go back one step back here. Yes. So here's your upper level energy. You noticed all those clouds and things, some across Texas, some across up here, across Nebraska and Colorado, heading towards east. And then off the east coast, we have, this is temperature at the lower levels of the atmosphere. You have colder than average temperatures here to the north, and then just east of Florida, we've got warmer than average temperatures. What that means is there's a big temperature contrast, which is really how we make all of our extratropical storms. Essentially, you need, at the surface, you need a temperature, or at the lower levels of the atmosphere, a temperature contrast to basically form, to make storm formation happen. But just that isn't enough. You need a triggering mechanism. And the upper level support here is the triggering mechanism. Now, the problem is this is a wide area of places where the storm could form, and it has not even started to form yet. And this upper level piece of energy here, where there's a lot of energy, lots of little different pieces of energy in here, also, unfortunately, has not coalesced. So the two are there's a lot of different pieces, small pieces interacting that the models just cannot work out entirely. There's just not, we can't do enough math. The computers aren't powerful enough. We don't run them at high enough resolution. And even if we did, that would actually probably cause some problems. So the best we can say is that a low pressure system will form somewhere in this circle. And where it forms is going to make a big difference as to what happens here across the Northeast, and particularly what happens here in southern Vermont. What definitely is going to happen is a big storm is going to form. And some of the models have that storm forming, and it's reasonable that it would form close to the coast. Thunderstorms get going, you get this upper level support, and you form a storm close to the coast. For instance, the European model and a bunch of the mesoscale models have the storm forming roughly in this area. The American long-range model has a storm forming almost 400 miles to the east, a huge difference to start off. And where the surface low-pressure system forms is not entirely deterministic as what's going to happen, because what will happen is if the storm forms more, if the low pressure first starts to storm east, it will kind of be drawn back in a little bit, and if it forms here, it will start to be drawn to north. But it does matter, because it kind of gets us going on whether we have a western-more track or an eastern-more track. The track actually gets more tight as we actually get the storm really fully developed, which doesn't happen until overnight Friday into Saturday. We could almost be snowing from some interaction between this storm and a cold front that's going to be moving through by the time the storm actually is starting to really form. And models just struggle with that. And we, quite frankly, until the storm forms, it's almost impossible for us to know. But there are some things we can work out. So let's start off with track. Here's your wide range and where the storm may start. There are model representations. So this is only 24 hours out, basically, on the models, and we're talking a spread of some 400 miles. Now, like I said, by the time you get to tomorrow, or tomorrow night into Friday night into Saturday, we got still a decent spread here, but much closer. And then what happens is it goes north, same kind of thing. The models do start to differentiate a little bit, whether it continues on its northeast track or kind of heads off to the east. Once it gets to about southeast of Cape Cod. Now, this innermost track would give us snow. Not a huge snowstorm still here, and I think we're going to avoid a big snowstorm here in southern Vermont. But I think this would give us some snow, and right now I would probably lean towards this track, but and my snowfall forecast map shows about what I think this track would do. This track here gives us almost nothing. So if this track happens, and this track is still a possibility, we get almost no snow here in southern Vermont. So let me take a look and show you why so much hype. That's probably a question you've been asking yourself. If you follow weather stuff online, and some of you don't, I know some of you don't really necessarily pay attention to the weather on a regular basis, but a lot of you do. And so why so much hype on a storm like this? Well, the storm's going to be very strong, 960 millibars to 970 millibars. That's the central pressure probably on the storm at its deepest. That's the strength of about a Category 2 hurricane. Now, hurricane strength versus extratropical strength, not exactly the same thing, but just to give you an idea of what kind of storm we're talking about here, it's a very strong storm. It'll bring big-time winds and big-time waves over the ocean. The storm's going to bring huge snow totals, not here. I did not say 2 to 3 feet of snow here in southern Vermont, but some places in eastern New England, I think very likely to see 2 to 3 feet of snow out of this storm. Could be Boston, could be a top 10 snowstorm in Boston. So it's a huge deal for Metro Boston area and for the Cape. And potentially for a little bit west of that. 3 foot amounts, I wouldn't be shocked to see them even as far west as Worcester, which really isn't that far away from us, but kind of goes to show you how dramatic the snowfall cutoff will be. The storm will cause significant coastal flooding. It is going to be a really strong storm, and it's going to batter the coast. And the impacts of the storm will be dramatic where the most people live. That's why the hype, because lots of people live in eastern Massachusetts. Not that many people live in southern Vermont, so we get kind of ignored. However, I only focus on our weather, except for to tell you about the hype here. So it feels like hype here in southern Vermont because for us, this isn't going to be a big deal no matter what happens. We're not the intended audience for that hype, and we will not see the dramatic impacts, although we could see some impacts. So let's take a look at the details of what we know here for southern Vermont, and then I'll give you a snowfall forecast. Snow starts by dawn Saturday, ends by Saturday evening. Most snow in southeastern Windham County, Brattleboro and towns around Brattleboro, and as you head up to about, let's say, Bellows Falls along 91. Though that area, that kind of corner, and you'll see that in the snowfall map, that's where we're going to see the most significant snowfall totals. And that'll be true even if we bump the snowfall totals up or down. So if the storm moves a little west, what I show you on the map, it'll just go up in the areas. It'll just kind of push everything to the west. If it moves a little east, then we all get less snow. Snow accumulations could change, probably will change, and there is a non-zero chance that we see very little snow at all, particularly the further north and west you are in southern Vermont. So if you're up in the Rutland-Castleton area, I think you probably will see a little bit of snow there, but it's entirely possible you see no snow there. And even under kind of a best-case scenario, I'd be surprised if you saw more than a couple of inches of snow in that neck of the woods. Whereas down in Brattleboro, there's a decent chance of a plowable, pretty good snowstorm still. Let's take a look at what I'm forecasting. 3 to 5 inches across southeastern Windham County. Again, this could go up. It also could go down. Most of the Green Mountain ski areas, unfortunately, we're only looking at about 2 to 4 inches. It's kind of a waste of a storm as a lot of it's going to be in the cities. But what are you going to do? Still should be a little bit of snow here. These numbers could go up. They could go down. And like I was saying, if you head north and west of that area, west of the Greens, and north of, say, Rutland, Killington area, then you start to get just an inch to 3 of snow. And again, numbers could go up a little bit, could go down a little bit. Likely not to shift massively from this, although it's still a little early to tell entirely. So that's what we're looking at snowfall total wise. That's what we're looking at forecast wise. Like I said, I did a deep dive on this. If you've got questions for me, I would encourage you to ask away. I'd be happy to try to answer your questions. But mostly I want to say this is as honest as I can be about this forecast. And if I tried to be any more specific, if I tried not to tell you, if I try to say, hey, this is exactly what's going to happen, it would be guesswork on my part. And I think you deserve better than that, which is why I'm giving you the best understanding I can as to what's possible and what's not really possible. So this is what we're looking at the moment. Like I said, could go up, could go down, and I'll be back tomorrow morning with a look at your weekend forecast, and then I'll probably be back maybe tomorrow night for a live stream, which would potentially focus on what was going on as the storm starts to form and giving us an idea of, are we actually going to get the storm or not? Because quite frankly, really it's tomorrow evening before we have any realistic idea, depending on exactly where the storm forms, as to whether these numbers are going to go up or down. Models are going to go up and down from here, I can guarantee it. But how realistic they are in pinpointing that, probably not until we actually see the storm. All right, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel before, I would encourage you to do that, as it helps make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. And I want to give a quick shout out to all my patrons who help support what I do here financially, help make the graphics here better, and I certainly hope to continue to improve the graphics with all of you who become patrons who've been patrons for a long time, and my new patrons who I've got here in the last month or so. So thank you for that, and like I said, I'll be back tomorrow morning to look at your